Thank you for participating. Thank you for being engaging with all the questions and conversations. And I suspect you feel like I do, which is blown away and kind of maybe even overwhelmed by some of the things we've been hearing. It started yesterday with Wesley, and I think I leaned over to a colleague and just said, I'm like, I don't know who I am anymore. I'm kind of terrified. I'm kind of uplifted and inspired. And I just had the same feeling after watching the last talk. So I'm going to talk about, I'm not going to talk about AI at all, or technology, and I'm not really qualified for that. I hope to be at some point, but I'd really prefer that the technology bends to me, not me to it, so when it's ready for me, cool. But I do want to talk about something that I hope is valuable for everybody, no matter where you are in your careers, physically, geographically, or the beginning of your career, middle of your career, or end of your career. So I just want a quick show of hands. Who here is a student still?
We all are today.
We're all students today. Great answer. Okay. That was pretty good. Like a third of the folks. And then who would consider themselves designers? Okay, that's less than I thought. Writers? Or story, writer or story? Yeah, and vocal. You count for 2. And then really quick, advertising agencies? Oh. And then design firms and other. Oh, that's cool. That's other. Everybody identifies as other. That's awesome, actually. Okay, all right. I think I have my bearings then. Well, okay. Sorry for the low resolution. I'll talk to you about this later, Wesley. Get me to res this up. But I found out on the internet, and I've never let this image go because it speaks to me on a lot of levels. But today I want to talk about one thing that there are 3 things that really move me. One is ideas that just gets me fired up. The second is impact. I just love when an idea has incredible impact. I'm a junkie for ideas and impact. And the third is optimism, which is kind of unlike the other 2, but it's also a quality that can fuel the other 2 in ways that nothing else in your life can. So I'd like to share with you a little bit about how I see optimism and how we deploy it in our company and in our lives. My company is 72&Sunny. It's been around for almost 20 years now, and the name, by definition, is a statement of optimism. And I didn't know that consciously when we named it. The statement of optimism came to us later, although optimism was a core founding value for the founders and I. And we'd actually spent several years asking ourselves, should we start a new thing? And the answer is always, well, the first thing was why? The world does not need another advertising agency. There's a lot of really good ones. So if you're going to show up, what's the new? And we really didn't have an answer. For several years, did not have an answer for that. And we had our previous jobs where at a high level, another very famous creative company. We'd freelanced around. We tried all sorts of creative pursuits. And one common theme we started noticing in all these creative companies was, man, people are really cynical. And these are creative companies. That seems like a really odd value set for a creative company. You would think, your parents would think it's the most fun, everybody up place to be. Yeah. And maybe yours is. That's fine. But the cynicism showed up in victimization. The client sucks. That person in that department sucks. This brief sucks. These project deadlines sucks. There's not enough time. Time sucks. Everything is sort of wah. And that wasn't really our nature. And we also just felt like it's hard to walk into a room and have that energy and feel let's go do something historic. You have to kind of, you're starting with a team of people who are in a -3 position. You're trying to bring them to a 10, and they're not even at 0 yet. So that was the thesis, was, well, could we create a culture that was founded on a belief that optimism, a shared vision of optimism, could lead to the best possible work and the greatest possible impact. So we're 20 years into the experiment. I don't really get to be the judge if it's working or not. You all do. The market does. The market has kept us alive for 20 years, so that's good news. Hopefully we'll make it to 21, 25. But it's gotten us this far, and so I thought I'd share today what principles we use and how we deploy optimism in the company for our benefits. So I'll talk a little bit about the benefits, what it is and what it isn't, and how to practice it in your work and then hopefully in your lives. Okay. Well, the first thing is for the benefits, resilience in this industry. If you're here and have had a great career, you have incredible resilience. It's a hallmark of you if you've been around for more than probably 10 years. If you're starting your career, heads up, you're going to need a lot of resilience because things are going to go sideways all the time. And things aren't going to go your way all the time. And your vision will feel compromised many of the times. So, and summoning resilience is, as you know, difficult in life, in any situation. And the definition of resilience I'll use here is the ability to bounce back from adversity and negative emotional experiences. So resilient people you can see them because they maintain high standards even when things are going slow or poorly. They're constantly adaptive. They don't seem to ever take a punch. They just seem to roll with it and can maintain their calm. And they tend to be the courageous ones in the room, or seem to be. They seem to be the brave ones. And so when you walk into a room and you have somebody who's very resilient or optimistic, you think they're the leader, whether they're designated as the leader or not. It's just a hallmark of that quality. So if you practice optimism, your resilience will improve. And what's really great about these two is that they're reciprocal. The more you practice optimism, the more resilient you become. The more resilient you become, the more optimistic you also become because you start believing in yourself and that you can come through anything. I'm going to go backwards really. There we go. This was a commercial we made early in our journey for Nike where we wanted to envision what's it like to be like on the pitch at like a Champions League level as a player against the best in the world. I just rude this a Roy Zillion image I could find, And today, with the technology I've heard about in the last few days, this would be a much different experience making this thing than it was 15 years ago. But 15 years ago, this whole thing was put together with we had to cast an incredible I'm going to use the word soccer. I know it's football, soccer player. But he had to be under 5 feet too because we had this helmet with a giant camera on it that he had to run around with and actually be skilled with a ball with. So, which I don't have the behind the scenes. It's the most absurd looking image. And of course, that you would not have to do that today. Maybe even not even have to film it today. But you can imagine the resilience of having to try to figure out how to make something like that in those conditions. That's where I first learned this lesson. The second is optimism. It'll keep you in a growth mindset. So this is critical to being a creative person, which you all know. It's defined by curiosity. A growth mindset means you are open-minded, you have a flexible, adaptable outlook on things, you are always looking for possibility. And the alternative to this is a fixed mindset, which tends to show up in yourself, potentially, or in your teams, or in your company as expert. People call themselves experts. And you can have expertise, but if you think of yourself or promote yourself or even self-label yourself as an expert, you are fixing yourself to a point in time. It says, I know based on, it's a rearward-looking orientation that says your value is based on what has come before. And if you're in a growth mindset, you're constantly wondering what could be next and who can I be next and what can this be next and what do I not know? So, and that, staying in a growth mindset, though, can be very hard because under deadlines and 3, 4, 5 projects at once, it's easy to go back to, just go to what worked last time, or something kind of like what worked last time. And then optimism inspires you to take action. So we're in the business of making things, and so it's an action-oriented business. And ironically, a lot of the cynicism actually paralyzes you. When you are in a pessimistic mindset, your body literally, biologically goes into self-preservation. Instead of looking for on-ramps, you're looking for exits. You're looking to get the hell out of this situation, not explore what potential can be in it. So if you're under duress, practicing optimism can keep you in an action-oriented mindset. This is from a commercial we did last year, actually, or the Super Bowl last year in America, for our client, the NFL, the other football, which is an American, male sport with pads, getting them to agree to use their biggest moment of the year featuring a Mexican fucking superstar who plays flag football was a real challenge. But that's a great example for us of like how we deploy optimism with our clients. And then optimism helps you win stuff. You're ultimately finding possibility where others can't. This is a picture of 3 of our partners, I think in 2015 when we won the ADCE Global Business, and they found some suits, and Jason was like 47 when he did that, so that's pretty good. All right. But optimism can also be misunderstood. So it's not a mood, it's not wishful thinking, it's not being carefree, it's not being a cheerleader, and it's not having a positive attitude. So this is really, I've found in the last few years, and especially coming out of COVID, even some staff in our company have really struggled with this, the misdefinition of what it means to be optimistic. So just to level set it before we get into some of the tips, but like optimism versus positive thinking. So optimism is a behavior. It's a skill. You can learn it. You can master it. Positive thinking is an attitude, maybe a projection. So one of them is optimism is based on ultimately assessing a situation, good, bad, ugly, awesome, scary, great, all sides of a situation, and deciding what the best course is for success. So you've created a path, and it is highly informed. Positive thinking is, it's going to be okay. I'm sure whatever is over that cliff is like totally cool. Let's jump. And it's not informed by insight, and sometimes not even facts. And it's very important if you're on a team with people who don't understand that, to kind of get that right with each other. Because if you've got a teammate who thinks they're being an optimist with you, but they're really just executing blind faith, you're going to have a problem, because they're going to be running towards a cliff at some point, and you're going to be saying, hold on, I think like we're all going to die if we go the way you want us to go. So that's one of 2 misnomers. The other is like a nature versus nurture question. There are people who think there are optimistic people and pessimistic people. I'm just born this way. That person's just, I guess, came into earth as an optimist. And there are people, I think, who are more practiced at it, and people who are less practiced at it. But this is not a nature thing. It's learnable. So, it's a behavior, it's a skill, and because it's that, you can choose to master it. You may be one of those people who's considered, hey, you're very optimistic. I feel like I've been told that a lot of my life. I've not consciously practiced it until probably the last 10 years, as an active practice. So many of you just unconsciously practice being optimistic, but I'm going to invite you to be consciously practicing it. 5 tips from the Big O. This is the protocol. If you're feeling overwhelmed, or you're in a team situation, on a brief, on a project, I don't know, you can't come up with something, or in your relationship at home, whatever, it should apply to anything in your life. This is a protocol you can deploy, and I found 95% of the time it gets you in the right headspace. So 3 steps. First is assess the realities, acknowledge the bad, and then focus on the good. So for the love of God, don't ignore the bad. right? You don't want to just ignore what's on the other side of the cliff. But you have to pay attention to what's there. And then the key is not obsessing on it. And it's human nature to have a negativity bias. We look for danger. We look for lions in the grass unconsciously. So assess the realities. What are all the facts here? What are the variables? What here is bad? Do we all see the same bad thing? Does everybody? I see a lion over there. Does everybody on the team see a lion? And very often, that's the answer is no. So make sure you all see the same reality. And then look for the opportunities together. Focus on the good. And that's more or less a protocol that will get you through any situation. The second is prioritize momentum. So in our business, there can be a desire right out of the gates to like solve the problem. Where is the answer? And the more I go in this business, the more I realize it's just such an overwhelming proposal to show up to a meeting and go, do we have it? Do we have the answer? I mean, sometimes you do, that's awesome. But more often than not, you have a nugget, a crumb, something, an idea, an inspiration. And so we prioritize momentum. Because momentum begets more momentum, it creates belief in your team, and it's easy to do. Like, make a little progress on this. Okay, we have a couple pieces of inspiration. Great, let's like stop and celebrate that before we try to say, yeah, but we're not done yet. What's the final answer? This image was from a project that we did with Google in 2012 or something, and Google had launched a program called Made with Code, which was designed to get young girls in the States to learn how to code. And we needed sort of a splashy project for them to work on, and it was one of those projects you get where there's like, what's the budget? Nothing. What's the deadline? Like tomorrow. How big does it need to be? Biggest thing like ever. And so the team came up with this. In the States, every year they light like Christmas tree. They light up a Christmas tree on the White House lawn, and the president says, "Turn it on," and whoever's decorated the lights turns it on, and it's a bit of a show. And so the idea was, well, why don't we have a contest for girls around the States to come up with designs for lights on the national Christmas tree, create them in this program, in this application, and then make a contest out of it, and the top 50 will come, and we'll have 50 little trees around the big tree, and then Obama will comment on all of them. Like, it just kept going. It just kept cascading into this, like, wow, that sounds great, but like, how do we get on the White House lawn? How do we get Obama? Everybody was overwhelmed, and it stopped the project. And the creative director at the time, who's now the chief creative officer at 72&Sunny, Matt Murphy, he said, look, I tell you what, I'm gonna take this thing this weekend, we're gonna go to a garage, and we're just gonna code a bunch of trees and film it on our flip phone at the time, and see what comes from it. And it was very unspectacular stuff that came from that garage weekend, but it created the momentum that got Google on board, and somehow it went from there to Obama saw it and said yes, and then it happened. And honestly, it seems like magic to me from step one to the final thing, but I believe that just momentum creation, once the snowball gets going, the snowball wants to keep going. Then it's your job just to steer it. Plan for play. So play disrupts obsessive energy. So I'm just going to guess if I asked, I'll just ask, who here considers himself obsessive? You got to be kidding. It's got to be the whole fucking room. Come on. This industry? Yeah, you count for 3. Yeah, so it's hard to disengage from your obsession on a project or a problem or a situation, whatever it is you're obsessing on. Play is, again, you're taking your brain offline and you're engaging your nervous system. Your nervous system is going to go into focusing on staying upright, balanced, playing, whatever it is you're playing. It's a very easy tool to get you out of a crisis mode and just into like stasis. So that Google team I mentioned, they introduced this concept, which is not the boxing, but planning for play. So in the weekly calendar, every Friday from 1 to 2, they had these play windows. So everybody had to stop what they're doing, come down, and every week somebody had to organize some sort of activity or contest or something. Everybody did. It sounds very dorky and a little like, preschoolish, but I was shocked how effective it was, and that team was incredibly effective. Matt is in the kangaroo suit here. I'm on the right. I feel very good about that. But he left. I came back to my desk one day, and there was a kangaroo suit sitting there with boxing gloves. He said, "Come on," with a note saying, "Come down to the Google area." And then I guess I was part of the show that day, so we had a fight, and I don't remember who won, but so one of our team was moving to Australia. That was the whole thing. I was like, "This is so stupid," but it did what it was supposed to do. It disrupted the obsessive energy. Okay, on our way to 5. Learn improv. Does everybody here know under the principles of improvisation? Yes. Anybody not know? Just some hands. I will explain it. So improvisation is a form of theater or performance where the hallmark principle is you are required to accept what someone gives you. The only rule is you cannot reject what is given to you. So the phrase that goes with this one is yes and. That's the spirit of it. So if I pretend to pantomime something and throw it to you, you have to build on whatever it is I've thrown to you. It's a yes, I see what you're doing, and I will build on it. And I recommend taking actually improv classes formally or having them come to your organization and doing it formally or informally. First of all, it's super fun. It's very disarming. You will have to get a little vulnerable, but you'll get over it real quick. And it's I think the most fundamental skill set for a radically creative organization is to be masters of improv. Because when you have those meetings that are meant to be generative, and not every meeting is, some meetings are meant to be closers where you're deciding. We try to separate them. But in our meetings, so I'll say, when we're trying to be generative, it's a yes and environment. And anything goes, anybody goes, let's go, and have fun with it. And so I encourage you to learn how to do it, become masters of it. I think it'll change your life, honestly. And I will give you one watch out, because I've noticed this also coming out of COVID, is some people have heard this, like, oh, we do improv, yes and, okay. And on Zoom, we're having meetings, and somebody will say, okay, but yes, but, and something else like, well, yes, but is not yes and. When you say but, everything that came before the word but probably is about to be challenged. So you're creating an environment that says, actually you're using code speak for like, I want to say no. So I encourage you, by the way, if you start practicing improv, if you want to say no, just say no. Don't say yes, but. And then last, recognize good intentions. I have written and rewritten this slide over the years. I originally wrote this as assume good intentions. Assume everybody has good intentions. Assume your clients have good intentions. Assume your teammates have good intentions. Your bosses, your colleagues, your everybody. That's how I go through the world, whether that's wise or not. And it's up to people to let me down or not. But that's a very uncomfortable phrase. Assume was a very uncomfortable phrase I've learned for a lot of people. So I've got it to recognize good intentions in people. So when you do see it in a teammate or in a client or a partner, a production partner maybe, call it out. It does two things in the practice of optimism. One, they want to know you believe in them. Creating belief in your team is job one. That's where the trust comes from. And most people come into a relationship looking sideways and maybe not assuming best intentions, or assuming somebody's got their own agenda, and my job is to figure out what everybody's agenda is before we get going on this project. That may be true. But if you see good intentions or you feel like you're aligned, call it out. People will immediately feel seen. You'll notice their shoulders, all their body language just changes immediately, and suddenly the environment becomes a more generative, creative environment. It's that simple. And if you don't trust the intentions of your teammate, well, the problem is cynicism is going to creep back in, and it's just very hard, I think, to make crazy, radical, world record-breaking, historic things if you're in a room where you kind of just feel cynical or down. Well, those are like the 5 like tips. The first one's a protocol. The other 4 are sort of like guiding principles that we use. You can choose to use them or not. My bonus one is just try it. There are a few people in our organization who are like, yeah, okay. But I mean, maybe. I'm like, look, if you're down or are really stuck, like really deeply stuck, and I'm like, well, try the protocol, the Optimism protocol. And they're like, I'm too down. I can't do this fucking protocol thing. And I just invite them to try. Just go cry for a minute and then try. And I think you will find what they have found, which is, man, that thing actually really does work. It's just like any practice, though. You got to take 5 minutes to like be very conscious about doing it. That's Lloyd Christmas from an American comedy movie that probably has no translation here, but it's he's my Optimus Patronus or spirit animal. And he'd be a great Patronus for the Harry Potter fans out there. Assess the realities, acknowledge the bad, and focus on the good. Don't let your negativity bias creep in, or be conscious when it does. Prioritize momentum over solving things. Plan for play. Make it a calendar act. Like whoever your brand or account people are, like that's part of the agenda of this project. Where's the play gonna happen? So like make time for it. Learn improv. You're welcome. And recognize good intentions when you see them. The last thing I just want to leave you with is a few things that personally, if you don't believe any of this for your profession, that's okay. But I invite you to be selfish about it. When you're optimistic, you are a more inspiring human being. You're that person in the room or at the party or in your relationship who is constantly painting a picture of possibility for everybody else that everyone wants to follow. There's just like no better person to be around than the person who's doing that. When you're optimistic, you're more influential. You're leading with belief, not with fear. It's very easy to lead with fear in what we do, but you can be that transformative person. It makes you more consistent. When you're optimistic, you trust that the right idea will emerge. You're not in there trying to sell something. You're not worried that this is the only good idea I have. You just know the best thing will rise to the top if you are rigorous enough about it. Oops. It makes you feel more energized because you have the confidence. You know that you can solve this thing as a team or as an individual. And then last, it makes you more fun. It's magnetic. Optimistic people are magnetic. Come on, y'all. You also listen better. You also just find a way to make shit happen. This is one of our first projects we did when we started, and we had no media budget, no nothing, just an ambition and a really cool client, and then I guess 2 friends who were willing to hold this thing up in front of the Duomo. So. And you live longer, don't take my word for it, Google it. You can Google it right now. The first thing you're gonna get is like, you will be living longer if you're optimistic. So you just got the roadmap. So think about that. And then this is my personal orientation. This isn't like a company pitch, but I believe that practicing optimism, what I'm talking about, is the ultimate creative act. All the other stuff, the things we make, the ads, the teams, the companies, they are a byproduct of focusing on this. So, this is ultimately about imagining the best possible world and best possible outcome with no constraints and bringing everybody along with you. That is, to me, the definition of a creative act, until Wesley tells me it's going to be something else in like 5 years when the singularity happens. And if you do practice this, and I've come to learn this, the best is yet to come. Your best project, your best version of you is in your career, in your life, will always be like the next thing you do. Early on, I had the benefit of working with some incredible people at an incredible company, making ads that I remember sitting back thinking, I'm not sure I'll ever make anything this good again. It was real anxiety. And since then, I'm only gonna be the judge of what I think is good that I like, but I have consistently, and 72&Sunny is consistently one-upping itself. And I point to this value set as the reason, and it's there for everybody to use. I encourage you to use it. And that's it. Thank you.